So it is officially happening. The Sony FX5 was now officially announced, or at least teased, on the Sony Alpha Instagram page.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody just calm down.
One of the reasons I'm super stoked for this is that we now will have a modern Sony cinema body to compare to the other cameras on the market. What are we thinking about the actual features and the specs so far that have been listed? Now, all of this to this point have been rumors, and some of them, are quote unquote confirmed or not confirmed by Andres, etc. But it is what it is. You can take that with a grain of salt. We will see tomorrow what it looks like. So currently, this is what we know so far: a 16 megapixel fully stacked sensor. And I have the Sony a7S III. I've had it since launch, and that was my main camera for a couple years. I recently removed that for my talking head so that I could use it out in the field more, and it still does an amazing job, right? That camera is still phenomenal, and it kind of pissed me off when the FX3 came out like 10 months later. But at the end of the day, that's still a great camera. It's like a hybrid style cinema body, etc. And the interesting thing about this new release that I want to point out before we move forward is that this is an actual cinema camera, whereas the other cameras that have been on the market are cinema capable and they have cinema features, but they're not technically a cinema camera when you think about the true aspect of a cinema camera 5 years ago and kind of what that looked like when the Sony a7S III was released. It was the first mirrorless camera that had the capabilities of a cinema body within a small on-the-go package that you could take with you, unlike the higher-end cameras that you would typically see on a movie film set. And so that's where we are today in 2026, whereas everybody is calling everything a cinema when it's cinema capable, even though it's a hybrid photo-first type camera. But it has cinema features, so people call it a cinema camera. So anyway, I digress there a little bit, but 16 megapixels, full frame, fully stacked sensor. I'm super excited to see what that's capable of. For somebody that's owned, I think, 5 Sony bodies at this point, with 3 currently in rotation, for my YouTube stuff as well as my photography and videography freelance stuff, I'm thoroughly excited to see what that sensor is capable of. The processor is going to be the processor that's in the A7R6, which I haven't got my hands on that, so I can't say, but I mean, a lot of reviews have talked really well about that. So, and I think that's one of those things where it's the unsung hero, where you're not really sure if it's doing its best. You're only ever really sure if it's not handling what you need it to handle. And so far, so good when it comes to that, right? That's one of those things where it's like, it is an amazing feature, but unless it's broken, you really don't know how good it is. But the biggest thing is the 5K open gate, the 3.2 5K open gate. Everybody's ecstatic about that. I'm ecstatic about that. It's not a make or break thing because I use my Sony bodies all the time without open gate, but it is one of those things, whereas on this particular camera right here, which is my Blackmagic BM, it's the Cinema Camera 6K, I'm able to make full 4:5, which is the new ratio for Instagram, from my talking head and never having to, edit or record twice. Like, I can record it in 16:9 like I am right now, where I'm really recording in 6K open gate, and then I can change it into a 6:9, 16:9 or 4:5 ratio without any issues. I do the same thing with my Pixis, and so I am excited to have that now in the Sony ecosystem. And it's not one of those things where it was guaranteed, because you could always just use a wider angle lens and then crop and stuff like that, specifically with the A7C2, because it's 7K downsampled to 4K, and you would still have enough resolution. But now to have that built-in flexibility, I think that's freaking phenomenal. And I'm excited that folks that have been asking for this, that really need the open gate, unlike myself, are going to get that feature that they really want in that built-in camera body. The next thing, 16-bit RAW internally, is crazy. Like, I'm excited to get my hands on that at some point, because it's $6,000, so I don't know if I'll be buying it day one, but at some point I'm excited to get my hands on that just to see what that internal RAW is capable of. Back in the day when I had my A7S III, I would hook up my Adamus Ninja and stuff like that to start getting the RAW codecs as they came in, as they were licensed within the Adamus Ninja environment and ecosystem. So I'm excited to see what that is in the in the new FX5, if that's the actual name. I know that's what everybody's calling it, but I'm excited to see what that is in the FX5. Triple base ISO, I'm ecstatic about. And the reason I am ecstatic about that is because I shoot a lot with the Pixis and the BMC and the Blackmagic full cinema camera 6K right there, as well as the Nikon ZR. I just recently purchased that about a month ago, starting to learn how to use the ISO on that. And so I'm excited about this having triple base ISO, because this is the best ISO in my opinion, at least from the ones that I've used. I've shot with the Lumix S9, I've shot with the ZR, I've shot with the Pixis, I've shot with the Cinema Camera 6K, and Blackmagic does their own thing where it has that range of ISO, and it, you know, if you really know how to use it, then it's good. But what I really like about the Sony systems is that when you put it on that number, the noise disappears at the light level that you need, and you're getting the range of depth, you know, and all of that at that ISO. And so you don't have to like do the math, and you don't have to do trade-offs like, am I getting more, you know, am I getting more range, or am I getting the light that I need? I love the fact that you can just put it on 800, and then 12.8 in the middle is going to be amazing now, and then 800, 2500 on my other camera, and then 800 and 3200 on my other camera. And I love that you can just go there and not worry about the noise, or the range, dynamic range that you're getting within those particular bands of ISO. And that just makes it simple. It makes it easier to navigate on the go. Specifically for me, I do a lot of sports stuff, right? And so I don't have the time to be calculating like if the run is happening or the shots are going up and stuff. I don't have the time to manage like, okay, do I need to be at the 400 or the 800 or the 1250 to get the dynamic range that I want later? That is good for like an environment where you get to plan out your shoot. But for places where it's spontaneous and you just have to respond like that, give me that dedicated number. And I really love the fact that they're going to have a third one in the middle there, because 12,800 is great in a lit environment when it's, you know, of course you're not doing it in the dark, sitting in the middle of a cave, putting it on 12,800 and expecting no noise. But now that middle, if it's 4,000 like they're saying, or 6,000 or something like that, that's going to be perfect. So I'm excited about that just as much as I am the open gate. And what are your thoughts about the potential removable IBIS, right? Like, I know that with the Canon C50, that was a big thing. Some people wanted it and some people didn't want it. And because some people did want it, they ended up coming out with the R6V over in the Canon world. And good, bad, or indifferent, you know, you can have your own opinion on those, you know, whether or not, you know, those two cameras coexist cohesively and things like that. But I love the fact that they're giving you the option to choose here. Now, it seems like you have to pay for it to have the IBIS removed. But again, the clientele for this, like, that's a different bracket, right? It's not people sitting around looking at their personal bank accounts and deciding whether or not they should spend that money. It's more catered for that in studio, that filming environment, and it's like it's an investment and it's just an ROI. So like whether or not they pay for the base model or whether they upgrade to the next, from a procurement standpoint, that's not really a big deal for them. I do love the fact that you can have a removable tilting EVF. Now with the Sony a7S III, I hardly ever use the tilting EVF. Like, I've always been a screen focused videographer type person. With photography, every once in a while I'll use the EVF, but this being a video focused camera with no photo mode, is like, you know, do you really need the EVF other than like setting your frame and stuff like that and getting samples and stuff? So that the fact that you can remove that is awesome. A lot of people gave the FX5 flack, and I think that camera is freaking phenomenal. I think that camera is like that entry level full frame cinema camera that people can pick up to start their cinema journey, and that camera gives you everything you need, you know, with a full frame sensor. And yes, it's the same sensor as the A7C2 and the A7 IV, but it's a really great freaking sensor that gives you really good video. And so, you know, again, like, hit or miss, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, that opinion is up to you and whether or not it works in your workflow. But these two features that are both removable, usable or not, I think is awesome. I think that flexibility of this camera that we're gonna get is kind of awesome. You let me know your thoughts on that. I know a lot of people had an opinion on the EVF. Like, they would say stupid stuff. It doesn't fit in my camera bag. Okay, cool, bro. Well, rearrange your camera bag so that it fits. Like, that's not YouTube worthy. That's just clickbait. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on those two features. From there, 3.5-inch screen, like the Nikon ZR screen is the best that I've ever, well, no, it's not. It's not. The Nikon ZR screen is the best that I've ever used in a small mirrorless body, but the Blackmagic screens have been phenomenal. So the Cinema Camera 6K, because of the size and etc. and the menu system, but the Nikon ZR and the mirrorless body has been the best that I've ever used. That thing looks good, and I have not touched a Hasselblad, the 100C. That's like my dream camera for photography. If I ever get a chance to touch that, well, the A7R6 is starting to look pretty freaking fantastic. Or the Fuji. I digress, right? But the screen, I'm looking forward to see what that 3.5 fully articulating screen is. The optional XLR handle with 32-bit float built in, like it's, you know, like the Nikon ZR has a 32-bit float built in. So the 32-bit float would have been really nice to have it built into the body itself, so that you don't have to have that arm, and so you can have more flexibility as far as like your rig. But the built-in handle, it just really depends on like the type of stuff that you're shooting. Are you tripod mounted, or are you actually moving around with it and stuff like that? Because this sits above the FX3 and more towards like the cinema environments and the fixed rigs and stuff like that, you will be able to use it for run and gun, but you know, more fixed rigs and stuff like that, I think it's fine. But it would have been really nice for it to be built in so that I can use other microphones and things like that. No matter what I'm using, I would be able to get that 32-bit float like you can with the ZR. But that, it is what it is. Like, we'll see if they have that in their next we'll see if they have that in their next camera that's like in between the FX3 and like the FX30, right? Like somewhere in there, which is where I think the more run and gun type stuff sits, like the ZVE1 and stuff like that. We'll see. Interested to see what that looks like going down the path. Venice UI, I've never used the Venice. But because this sits above the FX3 and more, like I said, in that professional environment, it makes sense that it would align with that system so that you can go back and forth between those bodies without having to work through different menus and navigation. So again, that you can make those changes on the fly as quick as possible. From there, like, there's no internal NDs and stuff like that. Like, I know for people that use like some of those larger cinema cameras, that's really big for them. I've never had internal VNDs or anything like that, so it's not a big deal for me. In fact, I always worry when I'm kind of locked into a certain, you know, type of thing in case I want to have variety and flexibility and creativity and things like that in the future. I like the fact that, you know, like, there are times where I don't like the in filters unless they're magnetic. I do like the drop-in filters, things like that for the Poco. Like, the Poco just released a second version, so I like that flexibility. So I go both ways with that. If it's like something where I always shoot the exact same thing all the time and I just want that consistency, then by all means, like, the built-in stuff is good. But from a flexibility standpoint and the ability to be run and gun, I like the ability to add, decrease, and minimize whenever necessary. And so for me, that's not a big deal. I know a lot of people are like, man, I want the built-in, but I mean, that is what it is. For me overall, this camera, like, it's not competing with like your S1 2R, because that's the biggest thing that people are going to be saying, like, you know, you get more features with the Lumix, and the Lumix is less money, and it's $6,000. That's all well and good, but it's a different type of client. It's a different type of consumer. A lot of people within the YouTube space will take a camera that's designed for one particular group and they'll use it across 5 different groups, and they'll say that because they can use it across 5 different groups, like, it should be compared to this group over here. Like, it doesn't make sense to compare the Pixis to like the S1R2 when they're completely different body styles or completely different groups. They go in different directions, even though they have very similar features. It just doesn't make sense. So I've never gotten that argument when you take a product. It's like comparing a, you know, pickleball racket to a tennis racket and saying, you know, the pickleball racket is lighter and crap like that. Like, yes, it is, but it's also for a different sport. You know? And so, like, you wouldn't naturally buy the same racket. If you play tennis, you're gonna buy a tennis racket, and if you play pickleball, you're gonna get a pickleball, right? And so it's one of those things, like, it just doesn't make sense to me at all times. But I don't know, you let me know your thoughts. Like, I'm super excited that we finally get an actual Sony official announcement. And now we can like really start like, hell yeah, this thing is coming out. What do we have here, right? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We got one freaking day for this thing to pop off. And then I want to hear your thoughts, you know, things that, do you think these rumors are true? Like, do you agree with everything that's coming out, good or bad? What are your thoughts on this camera? Will you purchase it, or does it not sit in your space, or does it sit in your space and you're going to pick one up? Do you think $6,000 is too much for this? I really don't, considering that it sits between the FX6 and the FX3. Maybe we don't get an FX6 Part 2 going forward because of this particular camera, or maybe the next FX6 is even in that next stratosphere going forward, and maybe the FX3 takes on some of these features but then adds more versatility and more, you know, like mobility or something like that, with a larger screen and a more better support and stuff like that. We'll see. We will see. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, stay cozy in that crazy world, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.